We heard earlier this week the leader of the Wagner Group, Prigozhin, go out and essentially confirm what the U.S. and the Biden administration had already said, which is that he's lost roughly 20,000 men alone in the last 6 months or so in Bakhmut. Now we're talking 5 times that amount if you add injured as well. So the sheer number of casualties that the Wagner Group has experienced in Bakhmut is mind-boggling. That being said, we've heard from Prigozhin this week that he's slowly withdrawing his troops and they're being replaced with regular Russian military forces.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle. I'm joined today by defense reporter Mike Brest. Mike, the Ukrainians have gotten, or are about to get, a powerful new weapon in their inventory in the fight against Russia. Talk a little bit about what's in store for them.
Over the last week or so, we've learned more and more about this plan from not just the U.S., but from a large coalition of the U.S. and European countries to provide Ukraine with fourth-generation aircraft, which generally means F-16s. And so these are not weapons, or they're not going to get these in time for this coming offensive that we've spoken about time and time again. This is really a long-term capability. And so what we know at this point is that the training is expected to really commence in the coming weeks. It'll be led by the Netherlands and Denmark primarily, though a number of other countries, the U.S. and Poland and Portugal, for example, have already signaled their plan to be an active participant in these trainings. From there, obviously, comes the actual delivery of F-16s, and it's still a little unclear exactly who will be providing them and when exactly. But we do know that, again, this is not something that we'll see results from in the coming weeks. This is, as DoD officials said, something that is a long-term capability and demonstrates their long-term planning for Ukraine.
So along those lines, you've spoken to people who say that this isn't really necessarily a silver bullet, so to speak, for Ukraine in this war.
That's right. From a number of different experts that I've spoken to, this is obviously a capability that will be that could be very impactful. But it's important to remember that as of now, even 15 months into the war, the air in the sky above Ukraine is still very contested and very dangerous. And so even though Ukraine may have F-16s, they would still be at risk of being shot out of the sky. And so that has been a concern from the U.S. as well as from some other countries, though there is belief that F-16s could play a big role in their air defense capabilities.
So we've seen an important development in the Ukraine war with the Russian mercenary group that has played such a big part in the Kremlin's offensives, particularly in certain parts of Ukraine. Talk a little bit about that dynamic.
It's certainly a fascinating dynamic that seems to have a new layer seemingly every other week. And so the Wagner Group took the lead of the Russians' effort in the Donbas region, now 9 months ago. And it took really up until the past week or so for them to fully be prepared to say that they took control of the besieged city of Bakhmut, which is in the eastern part of Ukraine. Now, this is not a strategically significant city, though it's one that both sides have either defended or tried to capture ferociously for literally 9 months. This has been the most bloody, the most brutal, and has resulted in the most casualties of any specific battle in the war. We heard earlier this week the leader of the Wagner Group, Prigozhin, go out and essentially confirm what the U.S. and the Biden administration had already said, which is that he's lost roughly 20,000 men alone in the last 6 months or so in Bakhmut. Now we're talking 5 times that amount if you add injured as well. So the sheer number of casualties that the Wagner Group has experienced in Bakhmut is mind-boggling. That being said, we've heard from Prigozhin this week that he's slowly withdrawing his troops and they're being replaced with regular Russian military forces. And so it seems like that process will happen over the next week or so. And then the pressure gets put back on the Russian military for them, or for their perspective, to ensure that they hold on to the territory that the Wagner Group just fought over.
There seems to be some tension between the Wagner Group leadership and the Russian government, particularly the Russian Defense Ministry.
That's right, and we've seen it ongoing for months now, though every once in a while we hear these allegations again. And they go something like this. Prigozhin accuses the top leaders of the Russian military of essentially sabotage. And he's even used the word treason, and in his argument, they are intentionally withholding resources and ammunition from his troops, and it's leading to unnecessary deaths, according to Prigozhin. Now we've seen a lot less interest in the public animosity from the Russian military side in engaging publicly in this.
Sure.
That being said, in the past, every time Prigozhin has gone out and publicly criticized the Russian Ministry of Defense on this, in the days that followed, there came some sort of agreement for additional ammunition to make its way to the Wagner Group. So this could be the latest iteration of a play for him to get more resources, but we don't know yet.
So finally, President Biden has nominated a new chairman for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Who is he?
His name is General Charles Q. Brown Jr. He currently leads the Air Force and will, if confirmed, assume the position of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Now,
succeeding General Mark Milley.
Exactly. Now, we heard today from President Biden, who made this announcement formally, and shortly before that, both Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and General Milley spoke to Pentagon reporters, where they strongly endorsed this promotion for General Brown, who less than a decade ago worked under General Austin when they were both at CENTCOM. So their relationship goes back a long time, and if he's confirmed, the two of them will have another budding partnership where they will do things like meet with foreign leaders like they did today with the Ukraine Contact Group, speak to reporters like they did today after that meeting, in addition to all the times that Secretary Austin and General Milley went to Capitol Hill to talk about whether it's the defense budget or anything that's going on. That role will, if confirmed, be assumed by General Brown.
Thank you, Mike. You can read Mike and the rest of our national security team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.